Welcome to the Xbox Uncut weekly podcast.
Bungie, you ripped the money out of your fans' hands and burned it in front of their faces with that piece of shit known as Destiny.
I want to be hyped.
Burn! How you doing?
And Tim and Steve are sucking it out of me.
If you don't want to buy it because there's a woman in the game or on the cover, you can suck it.
Clean your ass up, scrub your ass, put on deodorant, do not put on Axe body spray.
South Park, The Fractured But Whole.
Wait a second, we gotta enjoy that title first.
It's so good in the end, your accent too. Fractured but whole.
Fractured but
I don't sound like that.
Who the fuck is Master Chief?
This has happened. Third party money has happened. I don't give a shit.
This is a pretty good podcast. I'd say 3 out of 5.
Kill-tacular.
Yeah, that was on Xbox, and the only way as a PlayStation fan that you can be happy about that is because you're happy that Xbox fans don't get to play it.
I finally finished Ori, which took me 36 hours, 1,338 minutes.
Like Forza they don't program in 0 to 60 numbers. They don't program in how tight a car can turn, how much traction a car has. They don't do any of that. But what they do is they put these statistics into their physics engine and they let their physics engine work it out for itself.
You know how many times I've argued with people and they're like, Persona 5! It's gonna, you know, and then it's like, it's the same shit all the time. It's like, I don't know, they have
to reality and you were like, take
you know, exactly. Sony's gonna have more delays. It's just, it's a pattern all gen.
I played Minecraft Story Mode, and if you don't like it, then fuck you.
You can write into the show at letters@xboxuncut.com. And now, your host, Dustin.
Welcome to Xbox Uncut's weekly podcast. I'm your host, Dustin. I'm here to bring you a crazy week. Well, crazy news of this week, about this week in gaming. I am with the wonderful Jason. Welcome to the show, Jason.
Dusty, you're a little high, aren't you?
A little busts.
Well, not the weed kind of buzz, though.
No, I took. So I had fuck. What did I do? I had my wisdom teeth taken out, and
Jesus,
I ended up taking some Vicodin, and people let me down. I'm the only person that actually showed up for this show, other than my good old friend Steve Rules from SteveRules.com.
Thank you for having me on, Dustin.
Yeah,
hello, Jason as well.
Steve, thank you for coming on.
Steve,
thank
you, Steve.
I count on you, Steve, because even Steve was like, "I'm not sure I can make it, like on a Sunday." Because Steve's a busy man, and you know who makes it? Steve Rules from SteveRules.com.
I do my best. Can't let the fans down. Can't let you guys down.
Well, I never let them down because I'm high. But where are we? Let's see. Yeah, I got the. I always want the Twitch chat up. I'm trying to watch. But we're What?
Do you need someone else to host us?
No, I can host. I can do this. I have a good feeling. I can't wait to read fan letters because that should be a lot of fun. But yeah, we're here for another crazy week of gaming news. No Tim, no Vern. This is a smaller group. A more, you only need three key corners. Like this is the center stone of Xbox Uncut. And you know what? I could fake it and say we have a fourth person called Eric and just, have his name up there. It's about the same. But
it feels about the same, yeah.
Yeah. Just not a lot of talking. But thanks for everybody for tuning in this week, especially everybody live, because I know this is a crazy day. We're doing it on Sunday, so, we weren't able to get here on last Thursday. I was actually getting my wisdom taken out. My wisdom teeth taken out Thursday. So
you got your wisdom taken out too.
Yeah, it's gone. It's gone. But yeah, I just could not do the show. There was no way I was doing it. And then the guys kind of like a lot of schedules didn't line up properly, so we figured we'd push it back till Sunday, and now, Burns about to throw Burn under the bus. He's getting his cable worked on. Like his internet was all over this last week. He's been getting all kinds of weird speeds. So the cable guy's trying to figure that out for him so that he can be back next week on Thursday to give you an awesome show. But for right now, it's just the three of us, the core group. My MVP, Steve Rules. That's right. That's all I need. I can make any show work with Steve.
So I can just go now?
Yeah, you can. All you need is Steve.
I'll see you guys later.
But One Saint also was going to be on this podcast this weekend because we didn't have enough people. But
apparently it's cold.
He has a cold, so man down. He's
Sucks,
sick.
man.
But I gotta thank One Saint. He did a freaking fantastic job on our new intro music. I really like it. But
me and Steve really like it, even though we couldn't hear it.
I actually I was trying to set it up so I could listen to it, and then it literally coincided that as soon as Dustin pressed play on it, I pressed play on mine because I was having some problems from Dropbox, and I listened to it at the same time, and I thought it was great.
Yeah, it was awesome.
Okay, so I'm the only one that didn't hear.
Yeah.
But small edits need to be made. Small edits. Because I'm a perfectionist. I'm
Everyone's
a
a critic.
But awesome job, One Saint. Thank you so much for the intro music. You do it every week. I know we usually have a custom one every single week. I know One Saint, we're going to change it up. We're going to have more kind of a standardized one, and he'll edit it every other week to give us something nice. My alarm's going off. Jason, go get chicken wings.
Sorry?
Yeah, the alarm's going off. I need to actually turn my phone off so it doesn't. Say something funny, Steve.
Oh Jesus, this has been left on me. Oh, Jason, you still here, Jason?
No, he was supposed to go get chicken wings.
Okay, so it's just me.
No, I'm back.
And,
I'm back,
okay.
Steve.
Okay.
I just had to grab my phone. It was just out of reach. All
yeah,
right.
because I was just like, oh no, this is all of me. I was just going to start babbling or something. Maybe I could have explained to everyone just how awful COD Black Ops 3 campaign is.
Tell me how awful it is.
I should start this by saying I'm not a multiplayer guy, but I do really like the campaigns. They've all been pretty good. The only one I've not played is the original. But I just finished the Black Ops 3 campaign this evening with a couple of friends of mine, and it is atrocious. It is awful. Like, fuck it. It's just terrible.
On a level from Forced to Halo 5, where does it sit?
I'm gonna go Forced.
Wow.
I know that there's an in between, but it's bad. It's bad. I was so disappointed.
Yeah.
Yeah, by the way, we're not COD haters in here.
No,
I don't like.
I bought it because they said, it's going to be 15 hours or something, and whilst there's always a bit of exaggeration, I was like, you know what? If they're going to do that, they're going to put in co-op. I can dig it. I'll get some of that. And I played it with a couple of friends of mine. That said, couple of great guys. They carried me a lot more than I'm prepared to admit on this podcast. But Jesus, it was bad. At the end, we were just like, why the fuck has this not just ended yet? Oh, God. I'm disappointed. So
$60 down the drain?
Yeah, so I'm going to sell it tomorrow, so...
Oh, that's good.
Yeah. So it's not so bad. No Halo 5, put it that way.
No Halo 5?
No Halo 5.
So a bit better than Halo 5?
No.
And people hate that Halo 5 campaign. They really do.
I'll tell you what, look, if you don't like the Halo 5 campaign, my advice is that you go and play this campaign, and then you're going to feel wildly different afterwards.
Well, you heard it here.
All right.
What next? Dustin, host?
I'm supposed to be hosting.
Yes, you are.
You're supposed to be hosting. Something. Well, I need to ask, Steve, how are you doing this week, Steve?
I'm good. Apart from the disappointment of Black Ops, I'm quite excited. There's Tomb Raider. This is coming out on Friday for Tier 2 peasants. I've made a lot of progress with Divinity, so I'm doing all right. How are you doing, Dustin?
Pretty shitty, but hi.
Hi isn't hello or hi.
No, hi. This
Alright.
this Vicodin is like pretty good right now. Like I was in pain all day. Like the Vicodin wasn't helping, so I might have took one extra pill, and now I'm feeling pretty good. Feeling pretty good.
Take a house dose.
Yeah. My dog's looking at me like I'm crazy.
You are crazy.
Yeah, it's true. Well, let's just get right into letters, people. We have a ton of letters. We kind of because we haven't had a show in a couple days, so let's jump
We
right
delayed the
into.
podcast, so people were like, "Letter time."
People need to know. Otis, what are you doing? Stop scratching at the door. This bad dog. So, first person writing, William says, "Hey guys, I've been thinking about Microsoft owned studios and I'm curious to hear your takes on these. 1. The complaint of Microsoft having franchise features, 343 Industries, the Coalition, Turn 10, and the lesser extent Lionhead seems to turn up often, but most don't seem to understand that they've specifically built to handle their biggest IPs in the wake of not having some of their originator studios. Do you think this approach will ultimately work long term, or will studios burn out, become a potential problem? 2. Do you think Microsoft will put more effort into cultivating their own studios like Lionhead, Rare, Decisive, Press Play, Mojang, and Team Dakota to produce more games this generation? I tend to wonder why they haven't had Team Dakota develop their highly requested Rare franchises like Conquer and Banjo-Kazooie, even their expensive their experience with Conker's Big Reunion and big budgets not being necessary to reproduce them or produce them. Big Park used to be, this is number 3. Big Park used to develop Kinect games for the 360, mostly Kinect related, but are now relegated to doing apps. So why do you think Microsoft took this route with their studios rather than transitioning them into developing Xbox One games? Would Don Matrick co-founding have anything to do with it, or was it simply a case of downsizing and making do? 4. Lift London seemed like a prospective developer just based on their art department and website, but with their unfortunate implosion and merger with Soho Productions, does this studio still have a future in Microsoft's game division? Thanks, Will. And I'm just going to pretty much take one big step back and say, Steve, this is all you, buddy.
Okay, right. We're going to have to go through them again because there was a lot there, but I did like it.
Okay, so the
what's
first
one?
The first one was asking, do you think that having places like 343, Turn 10, and the Coalition, like these studios that specifically work on a game franchise, is that the future, or is they just going to burn out right off the bat?
I don't have a problem with 343 because they were built for that very specific purpose. Halo is their biggest thing. There's lots of transmedia stuff, and you've got to keep everyone in line. I'm not too happy about the fact that, as it stands, the Coalition have been turned into it. I don't think it's a very good idea for Microsoft. As much as they need Gears, I think that Vancouver's not in Redmond. It's a hotbed for developers. They should make Gears, and then they should make the studio bigger and have them make something else as well. I think the problem is that Microsoft have relied on these big franchises for a long time, as any does. It's not so much a problem with that, but I feel like they don't really
can
have...
I add one thing real quick to what you're saying? And then you could tell, because we've talked about this before, Microsoft has been in kind of a unique position where Gears has always sold extremely well. Halo's always sold extremely well, beyond expectations well. And they're kind of this is starting in 360. This has been the first couple generations where a studio could lean on a single game and not have to produce sequel after sequel. You know what I mean? And like you said, 343 was designed for Halo. But I think even 343, you'll always have Halo in development, but having the studio big enough where, as long as they're like Halo needs to be every 3 years to make a full line Halo game. But if the studio could also be like every other year, like working on just something new and different, but you're still getting that core Halo game. And I hope that's what happens to the Coalition, and even to a lesser extent to Turn 10. I'd like to see them. I kind of hope Forza goes to a 3 year cycle, and we see them like do other side projects, to add to it.
I think the problem that Microsoft, and it's not certainly a problem that they've had, it's a problem that I think they are starting to develop, possibly because of the position that the Xbox One is in. It's not that they don't have these big franchises, not that they're not desirable, but there are a lot of these games, and whilst there's 2 Forza franchises, Forza is every year, and the Halo usually has a product of some sort out every year, even if it's ports or new games. And I think that they are getting to the point where, like, we've already seen like the UK sales of Halo way down, and that could be down to a bunch of different things. And the game is great, and it could be more due to MC's Master Chief Collection than anything else. But I just think Microsoft need to be in a position where they can kind of try and do new things or space these games out a bit more. Like, I mean, Forza doesn't seem like, as much as it did well in Europe, again, its US reception didn't seem like it was that great. And I just wonder if, perhaps the fact that they're too reliant on these franchises.
I think it's because Forza's every other year. I think it should be every 3 years. I really do.
I think and the other thing, I think they need to bring like PGR back or something. I think they need to do something, because I think that you're getting to the stage where people are seeing a Forza every year, not the same Forza, but a Forza, and I think I think they are going to reach a point where it's just like, it's just more, like the 3 year cycle would probably be good, because 2 years, I'm not entirely sure at this point, having had so many, is necessarily enough for them to keep being so desirable in the marketplace. As much as like Forza 6 was a big upgrade on Forza 5, and Halo 5 was a big upgrade on Halo 4. Like, I think they're going to reach that point pretty soon where they're not the big draws that they used to be. Whereas I think Gears, on the other hand, you could say that was somewhat similar, but there was 2.5 years between Judgment and an Ultimate Edition, and then there was another year. So I think, and there has been a big gap, and Judgment didn't sell like Gears 3 did. So you could even talk, if you wanted to, about the big gap between Gears 3 and Ultimate Edition and Gears 4. But I think it's about keeping things fresh, and I don't agree with what they're doing with Fable, for example, because I don't think that franchise is gonna keep thriving, keep surviving. I mean, Lionhead were on a new IP, whether or not they still are, until they talk about it again, we're not going to know. But I think they've got to refresh things. But I don't have a problem with the one franchise studio specifically, but I do think that they need to be a bit more flexible to make sure that they don't grind them down completely.
No, but like 343 is a one franchise studio that releases a game every 3 years. And I think that works. I think if you're gonna have a one franchise, or like let's say a franchise centric. I don't want to say a one franchise. I don't think one franchise studios work out greatly. I mean, 343 is kind of a unique case, but because it's Halo and it's a unique game, it's the exception to the rule. Like I think you can have a studio that does, hey, we're going to make Gears, but, let them build side projects. Because look at what happened to Rare. Like, they was like, oh, you're going to do Kinect stuff, and you're going to enjoy it. And it just burnt the fuck out, because they were just doing kind of BS games, Even though, Kinect Sports was a lot of fun, it didn't work out. You always need to have, like, 2 teams. Like, just maybe have a smaller team that's just working on something different. And that way, if your game doesn't do well, you can always go, oh, we're trying other things. We're not just the Kinect studio, You've got to bounce around.
The other thing as well, but like I've seen a lot of articles recently talking about how 343 should go make a new IP now or something. But I don't think that's feasible, because that team is big enough to make one game. So what people are suggesting is that basically we should be 6 years out for the next Halo. Whereas, and the other thing is that because 343 are so integrated into Redmond, the sort of head office, I don't really think that those people specifically making a new IP is particularly any different to just building a new team, because you can't leave Halo without a developer. But as with someone like the Coalition, who were originally built to make new IP, I think if you were to look at the fact that it's a different source of sort of talent, a different talent pool, building them up to be bigger would be a bit of a different proposition to someone like even like 343 or Turn 10, because they're all at Redmond.
Yeah.
You know.
All right. Well,
So-
the next question was: do you think Microsoft will
I
put
didn't
more?
even wait.
Oh.
Hold on. I didn't even get to talk. God damn it! I was waiting on a chance. Okay, for one, I think Fable Legends is a perfect example of why they do lean on these franchises. Because Fable Legends shows that if they try to do something new, all people will do is bitch about how it's not Fable. And that's what people have done. They're trying to do something new with Fable. They're trying to do something interesting with the franchise. They think is interesting, at least. And all people have done is bitched about how this isn't just Fable. And if they were to make a new Fable, all people would have done is bitched about how they didn't do something other than Fable. It's a damned if you do, damned if you don't. And
No,
as
but
far
I
as
think I think Fable Legends should have just been called something other than Fable.
maybe, but but the thing is not calling it Fable. Calling it Fable allows it to. It allows it to have. For one, it allows it to have a universe, and two, it allows it to have something to step on. To have like this is a Fable game. Like
No,
people
but
recognize Fable.
I think the problem, like, I don't have a problem with spin-offs. Like, I think that's perfectly fine. The problem is that you look at what they could have done with a spin-off, and it's a 4v1 multiplayer game. Like, I don't. The problem with, I think, and also the fact that Fable Legends came after Fable: The Journey, which also sold, as far as I can tell, incredibly poorly. Like, I just think that it's been 5 years now since Fable 3, and for a lot of people who, because of how it sold, weren't particularly interested in the Journey, and now Legends, I just think that's a long time for a franchise to be in that kind of space. I just think that what Fable Legends is for me personally is just not very interesting. Like, if they'd have done something, they could have done plenty of other spin-off things that I think would have appealed to people a lot more than what Fable Legends is. Is what I'm trying to say.
all right,
It doesn't have to be an RPG.
Before we go down this hole anymore, because I kind of want to ask the questions again, so y'all can give your answers instead of us like kind of covering everything just in one spout. So the next part of it was: do you think Microsoft will put more effort into cultivating their own other studios, like Lionhead, Rare, Decisive, Press Play, Mojang, and Team Dakota, to produce more games this generation? I tend to wonder why they haven't had Team Dakota develop the highly requested Rare franchises like Conquer and Banjo-Kazooie, given their experience with Conquer's big reunion and big budgets not necessary to produce them. I think you already see Mojang is already working on something other than Minecraft. So I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, of course, they're going to have studios working on new IPs, different things, and flipping things around. And with what we're seeing next year, it looks like we're going to have a ton of new IPs that are coming out for us to play from their studios, their first party. But we've also, not to jump into news, but like we've had pretty much the confirmation that Alan Wake 2 is going to be. I don't know if it's an active development, but we will get it like eventually.
Yeah, I suppose. I mean, Team Dakota were at one point hiring for an incubation team, so it's like there was definitely some consideration for sort of moving on to something else. And obviously, I don't think that game sort of product has been a huge success given the big changes that they made earlier in October. I mean, Mojang have always had sort of pet projects. I mean, they had Scrolls, but that wasn't particularly successful and got shut down. But they've got Cobalt with Oxy Studios, which has just been delayed till February. So I think they'll always have. I think because Mojang are a bit small and they don't develop the console content, they'll always look at sort of lots of
They're-
little things.
It looks like they're developing specifically for the Windows ecosystem instead of the Xbox. I know it sounds
Yeah.
weird saying that, but like they're more of a broad developer. Like they're more
Yeah.
focused on PC.
And you also got to remember that just because you don't know they're working on something doesn't mean they're not. And a lot of these teams have a lot of concepts and everything they take to Microsoft and so on and so
They
forth.
just never see the light of day.
And just like we haven't talked about Undead Labs in forever, but Undead Labs is working on the next, what do you call it, Dead State. They're not. Just because we don't hear about it doesn't mean it's not nothing's going on. And as far as these, yes, a lot of it does have to do with budget. They only have so much budget to work with. Microsoft's not going to give them an endless amount to work on IPs. So,
But I do think that if you look at like the fact that the studios would keep getting new investment in. So once Fable Legends is done, they're obviously going to get the investment to make another AAA product, and same with all of them. So I don't think there's much in the way of budgetary concerns. It's just ultimately, I suppose, what the studios and the management decide where they want to push them. But I do think that I think that the one thing that they didn't do what they should have done at the end of the 360 generation was build big new core IPs. I mean, Alan Wake didn't get a sequel, which obviously we talked about earlier. We'll talk about that later, but that wasn't something they did then to build it up. And obviously, State of Decay sold 2 million. They're working on the next one, but I think there was a big missed opportunity there, and now they're in a position where they need to make new IPs because they need to make new IPs because they need to.
not really. I mean, do they really need to? I mean, they're still.
I think
we just
yes.
had the revenue thing come out, and Microsoft is still on top, above, even though they have half the actual or market share of the PS4. They're still well above the PS4 when it comes to revenue for games. Like their IPs are selling way more than Sony IPs are.
But I don't see that continuing in perpetuity, all the while Sony are making new IPs. I mean, they've talked about Bloodborne selling 2 million. Obviously, Until Dawn bested their expectations, whereas, there's no Rise sequel, there's no Sunset Overdrive sequel, and they for different reasons. But
they don't own those IPs.
Yeah, but they still could have made sequels with the studios. I assume that they probably wouldn't have been against that. But I think that making new IPs and building those new IPs is exactly what they need to do. Because if they don't, then they're going to come to a stage where, as I said, people do get burnt out on Halo and Forza. And it's going to happen with every big franchise. Sooner or later as the industry keeps going. And then they need to make sure that there's something else with it. And also something else that will appeal to new gamers as well. And that's the other thing, is that, there are some people that aren't specifically perhaps too interested in Gears and Forza and Fable, in which case you need to make sure that you've got a broad range of IPs that you keep building to appeal to a bunch of different people, and that certainly helps Sony at the end of the last generation.
Not really. I mean, look, Sony has always taken the let's throw everything at the wall and see what sticks approach. And you look at Killzone, you look at Haze, you look at Lair, you look at all these new IPs they started last generation, even IPs they started this generation, and none of them have really been a huge success. I mean, Bloodborne sold well.
Killzone's had 6 games. It couldn't have done that badly.
Yeah, but it's not Halo. It hasn't become a Halo by any means.
That doesn't mean it still didn't make them money, and it didn't.
No,
and
of course
it didn't,
not. But it's not
people...
making the money Halo does. That's the thing. You got to just. I'm saying throwing stuff at the wall approach is fine, but saying that you should stop making Halo to do a throw at the wall approach is not going to work. You got to think of this.
Nobody said that you should stop making Halo. I'm saying that they should make things alongside Halo, because having sort of 5 big IPs, Halo, Fable, Forza, Gears, and Minecraft, doesn't really sound as good as if Microsoft had, say, 10 big franchises. And I think that's what they need to do, because those 10 will appeal presumably to much more than just those sort of other 5. all of which have had at least 3 mainline games. You know, you have to keep appealing to new people, and that's what I think Sony have done well. And I do think that Sony have a lot of diversity. Not to say Microsoft don't, but I think Sony have a lot of diversity, and that certainly did well for them in the latter years of the PS3, considering how much they caught up from the position that they were in. And they've got new franchises that are selling big. You know, they made
No, not really. Look, 2 million for Bloodborne's good, but it's not. Let's
No,
be real.
wait
here. 2
a
million's
second.
Not
I bet Phil Spencer would
insane.
pay a hand off for something to do 2 million.
Oh, come on. Come on, dude.
A new IP.
Forza's done.
No, but I'm talking about
Halo by
a new
itself.
IP. If you said to him, Quantum Break, 2 million, he'd bite your hand off for it. Really cool.
I guarantee Kill Instincts has done over 2 million in sales. Guarantee it. No problem.
Well, it's harder to track. I
guarantee Quantum Break will do over 2 million. I guarantee Scalebound will do over 2 million. I guarantee Tomb Raider will do over 2 million.
All right. Well, anyway, we're going to move on because there's more parts of this question. We got more letters to read. And y'all could go back and forth all day. So, Big Park used to develop Kinect games for the 360, but are now relegated to doing apps. So why do you think Microsoft took this route with their studio rather than transitioning them into developing Xbox One games? Would Don Matrick's co-founding have anything to do with it, or was it simply a case of downsizing and making do? I don't think it was a simple case of downsizing or Don Matrick. I think at the end of the day, when you look, no matter what all the video game hardcore retarded people like, oh, I'm a games and nothing else. Apps sell consoles at the end of the day. It's a big part of the ecosystem. Sony puts money into making apps. Microsoft does. They all do. You have to. We've seen on every store, video games are very important. They should be your main focus, but you need to have a good app library to keep up. And if right now, with how Windows 10 is shaping up on Xbox One, we should have a very good app library going forward in the coming years on the Xbox One, and it should help drive console sales because you're going to have so many options. But I don't think they did it specifically because they were worried about like making do on a budget, budget-wise. I think it was more to do with we need a team that's going to specifically work on apps and actually make sure we're competitive in that space.
Well, the hardcore community doesn't like to talk about apps because apps aren't games, and we shouldn't, people used to be a gamer. You don't play or buy your console to watch Netflix. But the truth is,
on the
tons
360,
of people watch Netflix.
No, on the 360, 60% of people were watching Netflix, while only 40% were playing games by the end of the generation. It's clearly very important to people.
It is very important. As far as I can remember, the rumors were that they were making a MOBA, and I don't think Don Matrick leaving had anything to do with it because they stopped making games whilst he was still there. As far as I can remember, they were making a MOBA, it got cancelled, and when they were staffing up Black Tusk at the time, they were making the new IP. They moved offices so that they're in the same building, and some people, I don't know how many, moved from Big Park to Black Tusk, now the Coalition. I think it was just the fact that what they were making wasn't, I don't know, perhaps they didn't feel like it was going anywhere or something, or it didn't meet the quality they wanted or something, and and they started making their football NFL apps. So perhaps this it was sort of that, or shut them down and get someone else to do it, perhaps. So I think if anything, Don Matrick was probably complicit in the decision of what happened. I mean, it's always a shame, but I don't think they're very big anymore. I mean, they don't even have a website anymore either. So I think it's just sort of one of those things.
Yeah. Let's go to the next question. Lift London seemed like a prospective developer just based on their art department and website, but with their unfortunate implosion and merger with Soho Productions, does the studio have a future in Microsoft's game division? Steve?
one of their employees was tweeting about HoloLens, and back in May when they had the event. So as far as I'm aware, they're just doing, and there was job listings for HoloLens. So it does seem as if, considering they were originally supposed to be making mobile games, and then they said, mobile and PC and console games, and now they're talking about HoloLens. It seems that for whatever reason, after they merged with Soho Productions, there was a bunch of sort of layoffs between sort of the two of them. Some founders left and formed their own independent studio. I just think they're on HoloLens. Quite what they're doing on HoloLens. For now, I'd probably suggest there was some of the sort of tech demos and enterprise apps that they're doing. I don't know whether or not they'll eventually come back to games. I couldn't tell you, to be honest. I don't really know what they're doing. Sort of the sort of HoloLens teams that they've got specifically. So it seems that they're definitely not on. They don't appear to be making video games anymore, though. Anyway, because otherwise it's been 3.5 years for mobile games, and that doesn't sound.
No, but Microsoft
cheap.
has to develop. Microsoft is not just Xbox. They develop for PC, for Windows Phone, for iOS, for Android. I hate to say, not all their studios are going to be Xbox-centric studios.
No, but they were originally announced as we're going to make mobile games.
No,
and it doesn't take 3.5 years to make mobile games.
No,
I think something's obviously happened, and if that's what they want to do with them, then that's
what they're going to do. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I agree. But yeah, I just people will always go, "Oh, Microsoft owns that studio. Why aren't they making Xbox games?" It's like, well, Microsoft's bigger than Xbox.
Well, that's because they want to compare it to Sony, and all Sony has is one platform right now.
Yeah. Well, Sony does many things, but they're for development, for their game development,
it's the PS4.
It's the PS4. It's not. They don't even develop for the Vita anymore. They do PS4. And I think, does Sony develop any cell phone apps? I don't even think they do that. They're very console centric.
Not a PlayStation anyway.
Yeah. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's just they concentrate on their console market. Well, Microsoft has a broader.
They have an entire ecosystem.
Agenda. Yeah.
And it's
because there was the interview the other week, and Microsoft came out and said Sony's not even in our top 10 competitors. They're not. Yes, we compete with them in consoles. They're our direct competitor, but as a company, they're not even in our top 10. We're more worried about Google and Apple and Amazon with servers, and they're not worried about the console war and people. They just want to have a presence in the living room, and they want to do really well, which they are doing. They're doing better than they did on the 360 generation. So, and that's what all this hubbub about them changing their sales numbers by not reporting sales, and how they're categorizing and looking at video games from now on is going to be on Xbox Live and user experience, and not console sales, because their company's not reliant on console sales for them to make a profit. Unlike Sony has to sell the PS4 and make a profit for them to keep going. Microsoft Xbox could completely go into the gutter and trash, and it wouldn't even the Red Ring of Death.
Microsoft.
But honestly, the Red Ring of Death, they've already said it. When the Red Ring of Death happened, it had zero impact on Microsoft's stock price. It doesn't matter, and that was a $3 billion instant loss for them. Zero impact on their stock. It's whatever. It's a weird. And that doesn't mean it's not important to them. Satya Nadella has put a lot of presence and support behind the Xbox division. It's just they're a very big company that does a lot of different things. Anything else before we move on? Anything?
I was going to say something, but then you interrupted me. I can't remember now.
That's cool. I'm glad I did it so that we can move on. Old No Bones asks, it is time. It is time to start the campaign for Crimson Skies reboot. I don't know who will make it, but we must make our voices heard. Tim has a crap ton of followers. We should get dozens, making hundreds of people to bug our leader Phil and Phil about making this game. Let's do this. Also, does Halo 5 have the best shooting mechanics of any first-person shooter? at least on consoles, right? I literally can't think of a better playing shooter. While I think maps could be better, this game impresses me immensely in how it plays and feels. If you could have one original Xbox game remade or rebooted that hasn't yet been announced or remade, what would it be? Hint, the answer is Crimson Skies. Look, oh no bones, I'll tell you right off the bat, it's Crimson Skies for me, without a doubt. It's
The answer is actually Mech Assault, but
Steve?
I'd like to see them do Conquer again, but to be fair, I don't know if they need to do it for a third time.
Yeah.
So I mean, I'd like Crimson Skies and some of the mech games. See if they can bring them to sort of a modern standard.
Yeah. No, but I think I went back and I played Crimson Skies not too long ago, and I really do think it holds up mechanically. I think it's still fun to play. It's definitely not hold up graphically though. It's pretty like you could tell that's an original Xbox game. You'd be like, wow, yeah, that looks a lot better in my head than what the graphics on screen are.
Yeah, I think to be fair, some of their Xbox games in general held up quite well. Like, I mean, I personally, you look at the new sort of coat of paint they gave Halo Combat Evolved and Halo 2, and to be fair, mechanically, I think those games are, I think they still hold up. And if I played Fable Anniversary, was it last year? And I mean, okay, it's a little sort of clunky, but I wouldn't have said it. I wouldn't have said it felt bad. Okay, probably was 10 years old, but so I think a lot of the stuff that they made has held up quite well. So it doesn't surprise me. I wonder how Brute Force holds up.
Oh my god, it's probably awful. It wasn't good when it came out. It was probably awful. But let's see. Is Halo 5 the best shooting mechanics in any first-person shooter? I mean, I think it's all preference. I prefer Halo's mechanics over COD. I really do. And I like arena shooters. I like shooting from the hip. I think that feels better than the aiming down sights. Like if you zoom in, you get better, a tighter shot. I don't like that at all. But some people love that. I think it's all preference, really. But yeah, to me, Halo 5 I love those shooting mechanics. It's a shitload of fun.
It does feel good, and it's the sort of thing that not just the shooting mechanics, like generally how you control the player. Like sometimes I play Call of Duty and other games, and it's like I'll want to jump and jetpack, and then I'll want to sort of ground pound and do other things. And I think generally speaking, the entire thing just feels great. So yeah, I think for me it probably is among the top shooters at the moment, definitely.
Yeah.
I think what puts Halo over the top, like its gun, it's always had fan. Well, I think Halo 4 really got the guns, the shooting, and everything down good, and Halo 5 improves on that. But I think what makes it really great is how they did the mobility, and I think the mobility in 5 is probably the best mobility I've felt in a first-person shooter, because it's not over the top. It's not Call of Duty Advanced Warfare where you can run across the entire map in 30 seconds. But it also allows you to dodge and allows you to. It's good, It finds the right balance, I think.
All right. Well, Old Bones also writes and says, I like the idea of an upgraded Xbox One. One thing that happens every gen is that we start at square one on both the hardware and software side of things. New OS, new box, new games, etc. This gen has something that others didn't. The operating system is essentially a chopped-down version of Windows 10. It is a common x86 platform, and all games for the foreseeable future will be built with the brand new API DirectX 12. This console is literally a PC without the glut and fully featured Windows 10 OS, because gamers don't need all those things on their TV. There's no reason for them to start from square one, yet again, right now, just release a more powerful console that will run games better, and that new games can push further. This shouldn't be hard with DirectX 12's or DirectX 12, you aren't going to fragment the community. Gamers with Xbox One are just going to have the same games at lower settings. I would love to trade my console in and upgrade. This prevents a need for back compat in the future. You all have the same games available. It's not too different than upgrading PC, but you still have an easy cloud console system which many people still appreciate. The enhanced Xbox One and PS4 idea isn't a problem in my view. On the bones, I like your idea. Like having more of a PC kind of focused system would be really cool. Where it would, like, if we had an all digital future, and let's say the Xbox 4 or whatever you want to call it comes out, and you're just able to like have all your Xbox One games just load and play perfectly. That'd be amazing. Hey, stop! Nope, nope, no barking. No, we don't want to hear that. But the problem is these games are still being developed for the actual for the hardware itself. So they are doing optimizations specifically for that hardware, which I don't see why they couldn't put that on the disc if to have two versions, like two different settings, if you will, and just double up the texture pack depending on which system it's on. But it would add a layer of complexity to these games. It'd be an interesting way of going. I just don't. I think people.
You're gonna face two problems here. One, you're gonna piss off the community that already just bought these consoles, and now you're selling one that plays the game better. And the second thing you're gonna do is you are gonna create. You are actually gonna create a fragmentation of your market, because the thing is when you design these games, you design for what's available on the console, and when you start adding onto the specs, let's say you add another GPU core. Let's say we go and they redo the Xbox One, and all they do is they add a bunch of GPU cores and they put some GDR5 in it. Well, now they actually have to go back and they have to redesign this game a second time and make it run on more GPU cores and make it run with a new RAM design. I mean, I'm not saying it's like building the game from scratch, but you're still extending the amount of time it takes to make the game, and you're increasing the budget needed to make the game. So it's a tough order on both.
Well, no. Well, what I think people are going to get confused with is just because something supports DirectX 12 doesn't mean that it's like it can run anything that DirectX 12 will ever be able to run. Like the Xbox One has 8 gigs of RAM in it. It has, what is it? 5 or 6 of those are available to game developers. I think it's 6.
It's 5.
Is it 5? Okay, so
5
5 are developed for game developers. No, the PS4 is anywhere between 4 and 5, depending on what the system's doing. It's weird. That's the weirdest choice I've ever seen. But it has 5 that's available for game developers to use. But let's say in 3 years, DirectX 12 is still being used, but every card has 16, like the graphics card have 16 gigs of RAM. Like that is common. And you make your game designed for that 16 gigs of GDR5. Now the Xbox One, even though it supports DirectX 12, really wouldn't be able to handle your game, even though the API is there for it. And you would really have to chop that game down to work. So you're still going to have these generations no matter what. But the question is, would you be able to turn... no, wait a second. Would you, because we're in x86 games now, and we're not dealing with PowerPC or any of this other stuff, would we be able to turn essentially Xbox games into their own platform? And like, as in, like, or do they just, like, it doesn't matter if it's an Xbox game, it's going to run on every Xbox from now on because they all use the same core architecture? And that would be outstanding if they were able to do that. Like, I'd be completely down.
The problem you're going to face here, it's not, look, you can't just, let's say we took Halo 5 and we designed an Xbox One with double the GPU. It's still going to run the same because it's only going to use what it's designed to use. It's not going to automatically just detect these more GPUs, and the API is going to go all of a sudden, oh, I got more to work with. It doesn't work that way. It's only going to work with what it's been designed to work with. So everything has to be redesigned to work with what's now available.
Well, they have, for the Xbox 360 emulator, they have been able to do things such as enforce things like VSync. I think ultimately it probably depends how these games have been developed. Also, if these games have got PC ports, I mean, perhaps it would probably depend how they developed the game as to what you could probably do with it. I mean, not that Halo 6 is suddenly going to turn into a 1080p 60 game, but there might be things that they're able to do depending on how they develop the game and what software solutions that they're actually using now. But I mean, if they upgraded the Xbox and did like an Xbox 1.5 or whatever you want to call it, I wouldn't have a problem with it. I think the problem is how you handle the transition. I mean, if they're putting games on PCs anyway, then it could just be a case of, I mean, is it really that different for developers to make it be like a regular multi-platform game? As long as you don't have a fairly awful SDK, I don't think it would be, from a development point of view, I don't think it would be a huge problem, because you have to consider that with PCs as it is. It's just sort of a more fixed configuration.
And we haven't even gotten into discussing if they were to actually do this, they would have to create new manufacturing processes. They would need factories to build a separate version with a new die cast. They'd have to develop this new GPU. It's not just as simple as let's just add. There's a lot involved in it.
But presumably that would come with somewhat of a, they wouldn't keep making the same amount of Xbox Ones at the same time. So you would get, like with the 360, there's been a transition. You would just have a very similar transitions to what you've had now. I think of all the things sort of stopping them, sort of manufacturing the boxes wouldn't be specifically the problem, because they are making 360s still. They are making Xbox Ones. Like, I think the problem comes in.
I think because using x86 is going to solve a lot of these issues. It really does. And making I hate to call it an emulator, but making an API so that, let's say on the Xbox 4, that when you play an Xbox One game, it goes, oh, I can easily replicate every single thing that the Xbox One was doing because I got all the same stuff in it because it's x86. They don't have to worry about, oh, I don't do like, I can't even think of a task right now. Fucking buzzed. But it wouldn't have an issue. The actual silicon would be there to run everything the Xbox One does. But let's say if Microsoft goes from AMD to Intel next generation, let's say they go an NVIDIA chip and an Intel processor, they would, like these even though it's all x86 and they're still running mostly on DirectX 12, you would still have kind of the Xbox itself. The Xbox 4 would have to go, okay, how do I do the exact same thing but on two different chips instead of having everything on one chip? And you would have kind of those little hurdles over. And it'd be cool to see, but I just don't know. I just don't know if they'll end up doing it and turning it into a platform. So essentially, what we would like to see is essentially the Steam OS box, but for Xbox, where it doesn't matter what machine you have, you're in the Xbox platform, and it's just running. So essentially, you have a Windows 10 machine that's just playing PC games, but it's all catered through the Microsoft Xbox store, and it uses Xbox remotes. And like, they would still own the ecosystem, but instead of being the Xbox One platform for this generation, you would just be on the Xbox platform and the system wouldn't matter, and it would just scale to the system you have. And eventually the games just wouldn't support your system. So you would essentially get rid of generations.
See, I don't see them as yet entering, like, for the next console, into something that's more regular upgrades. I think they'll be, even if they upgraded the specs of the Xbox One, it would be because they want to extend the generation rather than replace it. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't see them, even if they waited 4 or 5 years to do that, they would then presumably do that with the idea that you'd wait 4 or 5 years to the next one. So I think it would. I still think that for the foreseeable future, it's going to be, this is your Xbox console, these are its specs, and you wait for that. But obviously, I just think that they'll be on PC as well, and that will give the more sort of flexible sort of Steambox thing if that's kind of what people want.
Yeah.
Like, bottom line, Microsoft does not want to, like, as far as the computer stuff, Microsoft does not want to be the company that builds this stuff. Like,
Yeah.
they want to create the stuff, and they want other companies to build this. They
No,
don't
but I could
want
see
to
them
be-
doing, like I said, it'd be the Xbox platform, and then like Alienware would make an Xbox console, and like you would have, it would just be like how the Steam OS thing's rolling out, where you have different manufacturers making it, and then you would just have a core OS that Microsoft specifically makes with Xbox games and Xbox. You would get all the Xbox stuff, but they would take care of everything else.
Well, honestly, they should make their own version. What you're saying is they should make their own version of Steam OS
Using Windows.
where it's
Yeah.
free. You boot it on whatever console you want it to be, the console in your living room, and you can run all the games. You get some Windows 10 features. You
But
get all the
it's
Xbox
essentially
support and all
like
that.
a PC dedicated to Xbox, to the platform.
Yeah.
See,
No,
I don't see them. They could just use that as.
But that would be a
as
way
PC.
to get out of the console war.
Well,
it would be
the
literally
difference
them
is-
bowing out of the console war and saying, "Hey, we're going to do Xbox everything, but we're not going to do."
The reason he's
Who
saying
cares
that
about
is because
consoles?
they'll never give away Windows 10 for free forever.
Yeah.
Like, this way, they could actually give away an operating system to run for your games, but you wouldn't have to pay for it ever. And that would help out. I mean, they're not feeling the burn right now because, like, I mean, Steam OS right now is like 0.5% or 0.2% of Steam's software. Like, they're
Yeah.
not feeling the reason to do it right now, so.
All right. Well, I'm sorry, Steve. You can have the last word, and then we got to move on.
I was just gonna say that I think having like an Xbox that, as you said, like Alienware, and I suppose you could have like Lenovo and everyone making on top of a sort of an Xbox version, sort of the Windows 10 thing. I just think it would be too much of a splitting up of what they're trying to do, which is the reason why I just think that they'll have PCs which will have that, but it will just be Windows 10 and there'll be the Xbox store on it. Then there'll just be a very specific other Xbox console for the people that want it. And Phil's talked about choices, and I think that having those two differentiating things is quite important to their plan, rather than sort of going, because also I think that the prices of those other products would probably go away from the sort of ease of just having this one console box that they just make themselves.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. Hi, guys. What type of Halo games beside Halo Wars would you like to see fill in before Halo 6 releases in 2018/19? I was thinking of a third-person action game like Batman GTA that follows a more grounded story dealing with the conflict within the community rather than the intergalactic epic sci-fi of the main games. Also, what do you think Microsoft will show at the VGAs? But both ReCore and Sea of Thieves are not going to be there based on what both Aaron and Phil have said regarding information on those titles. So, a Halo game that's not an RTS, and it's not... I think a Halo Cooking Mama like game, that's what I'm going to go for. Like, I just learned to cook with Cortana or something. I don't know.
I mean, honestly, like, if I wanted any Halo game that's not, it'd probably be a spin-off. It'd have to be a first-person shooter, man. I'm sorry. It could be a spin-off, but it'd have to be a first-person shooter. And I would want them to do The Fall of Reach, the book, but in game form.
No, I want to change. I want to change my answer from Cooking Mama to. I want a Halo Telltale game that we find out what happens to Benjamin Juro.
Benjamin Moreau game.
Yeah, like literally with. I can't say it because it spoils. Hunt the Truth. But the ending of Hunt the Truth, where with what we find out what happens to Benjamin, I want it to pick up right there. Or maybe you could do it before. I don't know. Like you'd have to somehow tell that.
I think
story.
the real answer is we're not going to get another Halo spinoff.
No, but
They're
like
already doing Halo
I'd like
Wars
to see
2.
that. I'd like to see a Telltale version of like the Benjamin Giroux stuff. Like I think it'd be interesting. It'd be very story centric, and you wouldn't have people bitch that it's not a shooter because it's a Telltale game.
Yeah.
Steve?
I've always wanted them to do an RPG. I don't know if, I mean, you could make it a bit like Mass Effect if you wanted it to. Like, I think the opportunity within the universe is certainly there.
Like a prequel?
Yeah, whichever.
Like before Reach, like just like something totally, like you hear about these aliens, but you haven't seen them yet, like RPG kind of thing, or?
Yeah, or even if you wanted to do something, kind of set in the middle or sort of before the next game, you could do something. You could go on different Halos and stuff. I mean, whatever, sort of suits their imagination, I guess.
Yeah.
But that's always something I've always been quite interested in.
All right. Well, I'm gonna go ahead and move along to Prophecy. He wrote in. He said, "Hey fellas, Just Cause 3 is going to be 900p on Xbox One. Why do you think Microsoft has been able to release titles that are 1080p, but third-party titles can't seem to reach what they release games on Xbox One? Do you care about resolution? Do you think Microsoft will push developers to release 1080p games on the Xbox? And I personally don't care about resolution, but I'm curious to the reason this happens. What are your thoughts on Microsoft's new way of reporting sales numbers? They are announcing Xbox Live numbers instead of consoles sold. In 1 week, Halo 5 sold $400 million in games, software, and hardware. I think it's smart for Microsoft to report these numbers this way. They seem to be trying to change the conversation of them being behind PS4 and console sales. Lastly, off topic, what are each of your favorite movies you've seen and look forward to in 2015? Or all time? Thanks, Xbox peeps. Without a doubt, this year The Martian was absolutely fantastic, and if you haven't seen it, you should go watch that movie. Like,
I agree with that. By the way, The Martian
fantastic.
is great.
Yeah, it's probably there's not like another movie I really want to see this year.
Star Wars. Oh, Jurassic World as well. That was good.
Yeah. Well,
Although
I forgot about Star Wars. I'm high. Okay, so yeah, Star Wars. That's what I'm looking forward to.
Very generic answers, but yeah, that's
No, but The Martian was fucking
gonna have to
great.
go with them this. No, I mean with Star Wars.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, like we're not special ass movies here. Just the generic stuff. Star Wars and Martian. What was the other question?
Okay, so what are your thoughts on Microsoft's new way of reporting sales numbers? We kind of touched on this. I think it's all right. It just depends. We have to see what they're going to do with the platform. I think it's too soon. I think them not reporting numbers is good for their stock, so people can't literally talk about it.
Honestly,
and they move the conversation on to games. And as long as they keep talking about games, I'm happy. Once they start like letting go of games, and then it's going to be more like, Steve, we need to like talk about this and bring this shit up because what the fuck's happening? But as of right now, the lineup this year was fucking amazing. The lineup next year is even better. I don't have a problem. Like, I don't care. As long as I get the games I want to play on the platform and with all the features that I want to play it with, that Xbox allows me to do, I'm happy. Like, I sold my PS4 last week, and I don't regret it at all. Like, I have been nothing but happy with this new Elite console. But, and you know what? It doesn't matter if PS4 sells 200 million consoles and Microsoft sells 80 million at the end of this generation. As long as they both do good, then Microsoft third parties will develop for Xbox. They will develop, the games will come, and Microsoft has done nothing but support gamers and given us games. So as of right now, I don't care if I know the exact amount of Xboxes on shelf or not. As long as they're selling enough and they're happy to keep producing me games, I'm happy with that. And most other people don't realize, now that they don't have to report numbers, that it makes sure that it's not a measurement for success for Xbox, even internally. So let's say if they sold like 20 million Xbox Ones, and that was it. But they had 20 million active Xbox Live Gold subscriptions because every single one was doing fantastic. They don't have to report the number sold, but then they could say, hey, we have an awesome revenue stream, and it doesn't turn into, well, Sony sold 100 million, so we need to cancel the Xbox division so it's not making a profit. Like, they don't have to have that conversation. They can just go, hey, our subscription numbers are up a high. We're making a huge margin on all the games we sell. It's a profitable business. And they can get out of certain conversations because Microsoft's core business, guess what? It's not Xbox. It has nothing to do with Xbox. But as long as I get the games I want and it's a healthy ecosystem for them to be in, I'm happy with that. I mean, how do y'all feel?
Windows Phone is a pure example of why Xbox is not going away anytime soon. I mean, they don't care. It's not about. It shows that they will actually support these devices, and it doesn't matter if they're the best in the market, or if they're selling gigantic amounts. They're going to continue supporting it, and Xbox is in a way better position than Windows Phone, so I would not worry about it whatsoever. And as far as reporting sales numbers, they've never reported sales numbers. They went from not reporting sales numbers to still not reporting sales numbers. All they ever reported were the combined SIP numbers for the 360 and Xbox One, and that was it. So, I mean,
well, they're not going to.
It's not an improvement, but it's
not.
not.
What they're getting at is the reports at the end of the financial year. They would have to legally to report consoles sold because it's part of how they did their business. But now that they've restructured, they're not even going to report it there either. Like, it's all hidden because they're not aiming to, like, the core business isn't, for the Xbox division, isn't about selling consoles because of how they're restructured.
See, I do think it's one of those things where, you know, if they were doing PS4 numbers, they'd be shouting them from the rooftops. And they would be right to do it. I mean, I'm not saying that Xbox is doing badly
at all. They're doing better than the 360. They've done better this generation than they've ever done before selling any platform of console.
I know, but I think, you know, let's say that whether the Xbox One, you know, starts doing much sort of improved. Again, not that it's doing badly, but, you know, there's sort of room to grow. Or if the next one comes in and there's doing absolutely sort of blockbuster numbers or something, are you telling me that they're not gonna start talking about that?
Okay, let's go back 6-7 months ago, or let's go let's just go back a year ago when Xbox was outselling PS4. What kind of press releases did we get? We got, oh, we won this month. No numbers.
Yeah, but the NPD.
No, NPD. They never gave numbers. They just said we won. No numbers. And they might have said we're up like 25%. No, NPD decided not to release numbers because NPD charges people for numbers, and then neither Sony nor Microsoft give numbers out. And like, it's just, no, we don't give numbers. Sony will come out and say, hey, we won this month, but they will not give you numbers. It's other people on GAF, like people like on the inside, that go, oh, here's a graph, and this has the numbers on it. You can figure it out. Like, nobody actually gives numbers. The number thing is all drawn by console warriors, and none of these businesses actually do it. To be very blunt about it. And we'll still get numbers at the end of the month the same way we've always got numbers, because we have console warriors and somebody will put up a graph and say 15% over last year.
If Microsoft was doing PS4 numbers right now, they would come out every month and say, we're really happy about our numbers, and so on and so forth.
We sold.
They wouldn't.
We're up.
Would
we
sit
won,
there and
they
push
wouldn't.
it in everyone's face over and over again like Sony does.
Well, I don't even think Sony does. I think it's console warriors that do. Like, you don't see the numbers.
But it's not about pushing it in someone's face. But you look at, they had this Halo PR, and they've been doing a Halo PR ever since Halo 2 came out and did lots. Like, they've no problem sort of posting that they've done well.
What numbers have they posted for Halo other than we've sold $400 million worth of stuff?
but they've always done that. That's the point I'm making. I just think that if the Xbox One if the roles were reversed, I don't think they would be suddenly deciding actually we're not going to show these numbers.
I disagree. I think the roles reversed years ago, and we still didn't get numbers. Once NPD stopped giving out the numbers for console sales to the general public, we didn't know anymore. None of these companies gave numbers out. Nobody said, "Oh, we sold exactly 354,000 this month." Like nobody does that at all anymore. Because
usually all we get now
businesses, the Microsoft or Sony will go, yes, we're number one this month. We sold more on NPD than anybody else. That's all we get. And that's before Microsoft changed the way they do things. And now Microsoft's just like, hey, we're going to take it a step forward. We're not going to report this because we don't care in our financial reports because we're changing our business structure. I don't think Microsoft, yes, if Microsoft this has been the best-selling Halo of all time. And that's how they're going to market it. They've given the $400 million figure, and people are upset because they're going, well, it's $400 million including hardware. It's like, yes, hardware that came with Halo. Like, this is the first time NPD cannot track. Thing. No, wait. NPD cannot track copies of Halo that went with console. Microsoft can. So why is it a problem that they're counting the hardware that came with Halo? So that is a copy of Halo that's being played that was sold. It's just you were never able to get that information because NPD wasn't able to track it. Microsoft can. So if they say they sold $400 million worth of Halo stuff, they sold $400 million worth of Halo stuff. It all counts. It's all part of the grand pile. They made $400 million on Halo. Good for them. I'm glad we're going to get a Halo 6.
And by the way, they also don't report on NPD numbers. And I know, or not, they also don't report on digital sales. And I know they make up for it. They make up a number and they add it to it in some way. But it's not real. It's based on something, but Microsoft already came out and said Halo 5 is the best-selling digital game ever on the Xbox One. And that puts it at least over 30% digital sales. At least.
What, in terms of revenue or percentage of sales?
In percentage of sales. They've already come out and said that it is the highest selling digital game on Xbox One ever.
I think 30% is a bit high.
No, I don't think digital games on Xbox One have been 30%.
Well, 2K turned around this week and said that digital sales represent 20% of revenue,
that's not, like, I would never trust EA or 2K's numbers because they release sports games that regularly are bought physically. I mean, it's not. That's going to skew their numbers.
If Halo 5 to me is the sort of thing that, if you're going to have standout titles that sell better digitally, I think those are the sorts of games that are going to push them. But I don't see it. But we're talking, because if you've got 20% of revenue, you're looking at an actual lower number of percentages because they make more money. So you're looking at what, 12, 15%? I can't see. I don't think Halo 5 would have doubled that. I think that's
I'm not
too
talking
high.
about revenue. I'm talking about
I'm talking about percentages. So 20% of revenue is going to be 12, 15% of your percentage of sales. I don't see Halo doubling that. I think that's too high. I think it's obviously done great digitally, but I don't think the attach rate is as high as that. I think it's lower.
All right, well, we're going to move on to the last part of this question. It's Just Cause 3 is going to be 900p on Xbox One. Does that matter to you guys? Does it matter?
No.
No, not particularly.
Do you think Microsoft's going to force? Do you think Microsoft's going to force these developers to make 1080p games?
No, they never have.
They've already said they weren't, but
Blizzard did seem to suggest that Diablo 3 going to 1080p was Microsoft's idea, and then there were frame rate drops, and they were like, well, they were the ones that wanted it to be 1080p. But I think if they were trying to force it, then you wouldn't have had something like Sunset Overdrive be 900p. Halo wouldn't be like it is.
There's a difference between forcing and helping a developer get it to 1080p.
But their point of view was, well, yeah, but the way that Blizzard said it made it seem like Microsoft were like, yeah, let's get this to 1080p, and then there was frame rate drops, which didn't happen before, and they kind of made it seem like it was Microsoft's idea to do it.
But as a person who's played Diablo
No,
3 on
that's
Xbox,
bullshit though,
it's
because
pretty.
I'm not saying what you're saying is bullshit, because the Digital Foundry, the 900p version had more frame drops than the 1080p version that came after that it launched Final with. The 900p version actually dropped frames more. If I
think
remember correctly, the 1080p version was actually rock solid.
I think the people that actually look at the Xbox, like if Microsoft sees your game, because they see your game before it launches, and they say they can, with just a little bit more work, yes, they're going to help push you to get a 1080p game, because they're going to want the game to run as the highest resolution and the best, uh, at the best quality possible. They're going to push for that every single time. But like certain
And
games will
ultimately,
never reach
it's up
that. Like
to
Sunset Overdrive is not going to be a 1080p game on Xbox. There's too much going on. It wasn't worth the sacrifice. The same reason Uncharted's multiplayer is not going to be 1080p in the multiplayer. It's just you look at the sacrifices and you look at the quality. 900p looks great. You just go with 900p. But I'm really hoping that this dynamic resolution thing becomes a big staple because we've seen a couple games do it now. And Halo 5, like, it didn't bother me. It looked amazing. I'd rather have the frame rate stay high the whole time than, even if it was 30 frames per second and they just had an adjustable resolution, I would be down for that. I think that's a great way to approach a problem. By just like, hey, if one frame out of the 30 that I get is going to be 900p, then the rest were 1080p just to keep everything up, you have me sold. I'm good with that. I don't have an issue. Uh, I'd rather have that than some game that jumps from 60 to 45, back to 50 to 45 to 60, because that's noticeable. Like, you really feel that in a game. But if we can just move to a new way of doing things where, hey, it might not be 1080p all the time, but, sometimes it will be. Sometimes we'll drop down to something in around 900p, then we'll go back up to 1080p when we can. I'm all for it. And I think that's the future of console games, honestly.
It's worth noting that Call of Duty Black Ops 3 does dynamic resolution on both Xbox One and PS4.
Yeah.
Also, I've just got the Digital Foundry up article for Diablo 3, and it says this. We did find it challenging to get it to 1080p on Xbox One. We did the demo at E3, and we dropped it to 900. And Microsoft said, this is unacceptable. You need to figure a way to get better resolution. So we worked with them directly and got the code up to 1080p. And then it said that it was a locked 60 at 900p, and it had drops in busy areas at 1080p. I mean, that's the quote that Blizzard is saying. So
it sounds so bullshit that they would say, why would they say unacceptable and then Sunset Overdrive? Like, it just doesn't make sense.
No, but Microsoft has also come out multiple times and said, we do not force developers to do 1080p. So I can go off of two different PRs at the end of the day. And I'm going to take Microsoft's word for it. They do not force developers to code in 1080p.
Especially considering we have evidence. I mean, we only got
and this
so
isn't
many
something that they said one
party.
random time, like in the background. Microsoft does not force developers to run it at any specific resolution or any specific frame rate. They don't do that. But, we can always do hearsay and just go, oh, Blizzard said this, and then they said that, and Blizzard said Microsoft said that, and no, it's a dangerous path of just hearsay. All right, last email from Chaos Dasher. Hey, gents, which are you playing first, Rise of the Tomb Raider or Fallout 4? Personally, I can't wait for Rise of the Tomb Raider. Never got into Fallout. Halo multiplayer has been phenomenal. What are your thoughts on the rec system? I find it needs some minor modifications. Would you like to join a fire team with your fine gentlemen if possible? Oh, would like to join a fire team with you fine gentlemen if possible. Kind regards, gentlemen. Chaos Dasher. Oh yeah. Also, big ups to Mets this season. So proud. Chaos Dasher. Well, we do have a fire team. It's called the Fuzzy Doom Brigade, and if you're not part of it, you should be. It's freaking amazing. And I'm going to play Rise of the Tomb Raider first because that game's faster to get through. And then I'm going to kind of really jump into Fallout because that's going to be like a 200-hour game.
Yeah, if I'm not getting Fallout day one anymore, we'll get it soon. But I would do Tomb Raider first as well if that was the case, because as you said, rather than spending 200 hours on Fallout 4, then playing, I suppose it depends how long you want to play Tomb Raider for, but 10, 15, 20, 30, 40 hours, depending on if you want to get all of the stuff, probably makes more sense to do Tomb Raider first. But that's why I picked Tomb Raider first, and I still need to play Fallout New Vegas as well.
I'm gonna do Fallout 4 first, and then once I get tired of Fallout 4, I'm gonna go on to Wild Tomb Raider. Then it's gonna be a back and forth thing. Two great games, man. It's really hard, really tough. It really is tough.
All right, I lied. We have one more email. I'm sorry. I apologize. Hello, I know my questions are quite silly, but here's another. Since I'm creeping up to 10,000 achievements unlocked, what game should I unlock it in? I already unlocked all the cool ones in Halo 5, so that's out. From the Wicked Soul. P.S. I think Tim Dog was into the death metal underground scene back in the day. Malevolent Creation, Cannibal Corpse, Beyond Death, and Torrent Sin should ring some bells. Maybe I think
Overdrive.
since, without a doubt, I think it's I think Tim was totally into death metal. Really do. But no, my recommendation would be Dead Rising 3 to kill all the like 100,000 zombies or whatever it was. That's always a fun achievement to do. But yeah, that's the one I would recommend.
Sunset Overdrive.
Yeah. Sunset Overdrive has great achievements, but I really love Dead Rising.
I'm not an achievement hunter. If you really hate yourself, you can go after the Forza ones.
No, I'm not talking about hunting, but like if you were able to hit your 10,000th one, and you could choose the achievement that was going to be, what would it be? To me, it would be the 86,000.
The problem with the Dead Rising one is that
in Dead Rising 1 in the car.
The problem with that one is by the time you get that, you might unlock another achievement before you get to that one.
Yeah.
Just from the mayhem you have to do to kill 86,000 zombies. So that might screw it up.
I'm just saying, if you could choose what your 10,000 one would be, Jason, not that it wouldn't be an obstacle, but if you could just choose it.
If you could just automatically say, fuck it, it's my 10,000th?
Yes. Not everything has to be answered logically.
He says he's already got the achievements in Sunset Overdrive. Okay, right, you need to start a new gamer tag, and you need to start all over again and save Sunset Overdrive until the 100,000. Or was it 10,000?
I just like how the Wicked Soul titled the email Tim Dog Truther. It's the truth. It's the truth.
Is this the truth about Tim Dog?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, thanks everybody for writing in. We really appreciate it. You are awesome. And you could also write in at letters@xboxuncut.com. That's letters@xboxuncut.com. And shockingly, we've been going on for almost an hour and a half talking letters alone. I told you, short shows are never short. They just aren't. We're not really going to get into too much news this week. Because we kind of covered what I wanted to talk about. Halo sold 400 million units of something. Between hardware and games. I can't imagine most of that was actually Halo consoles. I'm pretty sure that's going to actually be the games themselves.
Well, when they said hardware, it sounded like it included official accessories like the controllers, but not third-party stuff. So between the controllers, the hardware, and you got to bear in mind those hardware bundles are $500.
Yeah.
So
I think it's silly that people made a big deal out of them doing that, but if it was a Sony game and like Bloodborne sold a bunch of PS4 Bloodborne bundles, then they wouldn't have a problem with it. But since it's Halo and it's a Microsoft game, then all of a sudden we can't. They're counting consoles. It's like, I thought you guys liked to count consoles.
Well, I mean, that's a fair point, but I will say, to be fair, that they've never included hardware in it before that they've specified.
Yeah, but
So
I don't think it's just.
I
Like,
think if you look at the UK sales, quite what it does in America and North America, we don't know. But there's like a 200,000 shortfall between what Halo 3 did and what Halo 5 did. Like 170 or odds between Halo 4 and 5. So
Except for the fact that, you know, the user base on 360 was much larger when Halo 3 came out compared to.
it wasn't in UK. It was higher. Xbox One is higher.
Oh no, we're talking about. I thought you just talked about overall. This is just UK.
No, not yeah, in the UK.
Okay.
So when Halo 3 came out, the 360 had a smaller user base than the Xbox One has now over here.
Mm-hmm.
And they sold more. I mean, but there's lots of things you could look at as to why. I think
digital
probably
is a big one.
Yeah, but even if
Halo
you
3.
if you take 30% of that, that's an extra 45,000. That's still under 200,000. And Halo 3 sold 370,000. Reach did 390. There's obviously been a big drop.
It's still doing great overall throughout the world, so I wouldn't worry about Halo.
I think all these statistics being used, yes, it's something that should be talked about, but I think it's being taken way too fucking far just to use it to troll. Honestly, like I think a lot of it's just being used to troll.
Yeah, but and that's fair, and I agree. But if you're Microsoft and you're looking at things that are gonna sell your console, I don't think this is something that they should just turn around and say, oh, you know, this is just trolling. You know, I think that they do have to look
No,
at
of course they can't.
exactly why that is. And to be fair, I think that there are multiple things that you could look at. I mean, could franchise fatigue be one of them possible? Could Halo 4, you know, people didn't particularly like the multiplayer on that. I think that's possible. I think a bigger factor is the problems that they had with the Master Chief Collection and how that, because over here there was a big drop the following week when that came out. Word of mouth seemed to sort of, you know, it didn't kill it, but I don't think it got the sales that it would have had those problems not been there. Like, I think it unquestionably would have been higher. And in which case, I mean, MCC Master Chief Collection had its big problems, and if you're going to do that, and Assassin's Creed Unity has been exactly the same. I personally just think that that's kind of what happens when a game ships in that state, whether it was a cynical business decision or something that they didn't realize. You know, that's how the market reacts. So, you know,
I don't know. I think when you go, hey, we sold 400 million copies, you know, this helped us sell 400 million of anything. I think you look at that as a good thing. You know, good business choice.
Well, it's obviously made them an awful lot of money. I largely suspect that the game is, you know, well beyond, you know, it's every copy that they sell now is just
printing money.
Profit.
Yeah.
But you know, if Halo keeps selling less than it did before, then I think that you know, that's sort of what I talked about earlier. That's something that perhaps needs to be looked into as to why and how they try and deal with that.
Well, they're going to just keep marketing it a different way and adjust it to go with market expectations. I mean, it's the same.
And it doesn't help.
Wait a second, Jason. It's like when people were talking about Call of Duty, and Call of Duty does not sell like it used to. Call of Duty used to sell like 25 million per game, and now they're about down to 18. Does that mean we're going to cancel Call of Duty? No, not at all. It's selling 18 million copies per version on all platforms. You just keep rolling with it. Like, what you don't want to do is do Guitar Hero, which they release the game every single year, and burn it the fuck out until it's just destroyed. I think kind of Call of Duty's on that path, but it still sells like 18 million copies. They support their community very well, and they're just going to keep selling a ton of Call of Duty games. That's never going to end, like, until that game really just sells like 2 million copies, and they're a long ways from being at that point. And Halo's in the same boat. Yes, not every game is going to sell in every single region 10 times what the previous game did. It's just not going to happen. But it did sell better than any other Halo before it, and it's doing fantastic. But to find, in the UK it didn't sell better than Halo 3, Halo's doomed. Like that, I don't think companies have to look at it that way. Like, yes, it didn't sell as much. Maybe, you marketed a different way. Yes, it had an impact with the Master Chief Collection being real fucked up when it first launched. But overall, it's still making them a ton of money, and they're going to continue to produce Halo. I just see, I see most internet trolls, like people on the internet, as pessimists. They look, it didn't do as good as it used to. Well, I guess we need to cancel that or turn that. Like, we got to move on. We got to figure this out. Like, I'm just an optimist. Like, you look at Halo, it did 400 million. Let's make another. Like, that's good money. That's good business. Let's keep doing that. Hunt the Truth. The marketing campaign was it was amazing, but I guess we're never going to do that again because it didn't continue to break sales numbers every 2 seconds. Like, it's just such a pessimistic way of looking at things, and I don't like to go down that path.
It's the same attitude that says, "Are they going to sell Xbox off now?" You know?
Yeah. The Xbox One is selling better than any console they've ever sold before. It is outselling the 360 very well right now. It's doing fantastic, but it's not doing as good as PS4. So let's just kill the brand.
Like, we're not saying that you shouldn't criticize and that you shouldn't look at what problems are happening and try to understand what's going on in the market. Or what we're trying to say is that a lot of people out there, they don't do it for the good of the industry. They're doing it to troll. And I know you understand that, Steve. And I know that's not where you're coming from. It's just, you see it so damn much, you know? And I guess it's just gotten on my nerves after so long. It's the reason why I pretty much do not go to, I don't go to GAF at all anymore.
I don't read sales threads anymore at all.
Now.
Like, I don't care.
They have a thread right now saying, "What's the most toxic community?" So, an example. I think that's fucking hilarious. So, I mean, it's just, I don't know.
All right, well, we're gonna move on from Halo 400 million news or whatever because it's just like the good news turned into a bunch of pessimists turning it into shitty news. So
that's the thing. I think is bottom line is people trying to turn good news into bad news. And then you also have people like Steve that want to understand the news better to see, what does it actually mean.
Well, yeah, Steve, I'm not going after you because you're just trying to see market trends. You're looking at it as from an outside, like a outside the box approach. But that's not why people look at that number. They look at it as it's a failure. Microsoft's not doing good. They should get out of video games. Sony's the best. Fuck everything. I hate the mentality. And I know that's not where you're going with it, but it's kind of why I've been backing off from video games. I don't enter those threads on GAF anymore. I don't pay attention to it. It's just I like to play video games, have fun, and bullshit about them with y'all guys on the podcast, and anywhere else. It's just everybody's such a fucking pessimist now. You can't say one good thing.
You can't even read. I will continue giving IGN shit for this. You can't even read IGN and GameSpot safely anymore. Because they gave out Halo fucking... they gave out Halo spoilers before the fucking game came out in articles on their front page. It's like, what the fuck, guys? Who does that?
Yeah.
It's insane.
All right, well, we're going to move on to, I guess, what you've been playing or something, or we're going to move on to me talking about how I sold my PS4 and my Xbox.
I was just going to say, well, we're not going to mention, I know we briefly mentioned the Alan Wake stuff, but what exactly Sam said in the context of it.
Oh, no, go ahead. You could, better than I, so go for it.
So, this month in Game Informer, Quantum Break is the cover article, and it's the first time that the press have been able to play it. It's been at Paris Games Week, Brazil Games Week, Gamescom, and previous E3s and stuff, but, Remedy have just demoed it. So this time, an outside publication got to play it. And as part of their coverage, there was one of the Game Informer guys interviewed Sam Lake, the creative director, but rather than have a sort of regular interview where he answers sort of long-winded things, it was just, hey, here's 100 questions, and there were sort of 1 or 2 word answers for all of them, and one of them was, will we ever get to play Alan Wake 2? To which Sam Lake said yes with a smile on his face. So, I suppose that's interesting news, and I suppose it brings up sort of the possibilities of when and what sort of thing has gone on that will lead to that sort of deal. So the other thing is, perhaps who's sort of publishing it is the more sort of important question, whether it be Microsoft, whether it be someone else. Don't know if you guys have got any thoughts on that.
I think it's just coming. I don't think there's much more to say on it. Like, it's just Alan Wake 2's coming.
The passion for the game is there. Yeah, I mean, it makes sense for them to make it. They made quite a bit of money off of it, so I'm shocked it hasn't.
It's going to be a PC Xbox game, no doubt. Like, straight up, that will be a PC Xbox game out of the box, in my opinion.
Yeah, because the thing is, given it takes Remedy so long to make games, are they gonna? Does this mean, is this instead of Quantum Break 2, or is this as well as, and they're gonna get bigger, or like? I think this has quite a potentially big impact on whatever it is that they're gonna do with Quantum Break. Because I mean, as it stands, wouldn't have said that they were big enough to make 2 AAA games at the same time without taking a decade each.
Yeah, sounds about right.
Yeah.
So, in which case, does that mean that after Quantum Break, they're going to go make Alan Wake 2 and then they'll go back to Quantum Break? Because the other thing is, I can't see Microsoft wanting to do that. So,
yeah.
And also Remedy.
Maybe there's another dev working on it.
I mean, and Remedy own Alan Wake? Microsoft do
they?
Yeah. Whereas Remedy own Alan Wake, but Microsoft own Quantum Break. And I imagine that if the two, Microsoft would presumably prefer a Quantum Break sequel. So I think quite what happens. I know this would probably be more Vern sort of thing to discuss, but I think that probably has quite big impacts on what happens with that going forwards.
Yeah.
All right. Was there any other news that we wanted to go over?
I can't remember.
We didn't make show notes, guys. Sorry.
I can't remember what we discussed before the show, because you did ask and I did say a few things. Let me go and so we mentioned the Fallout 4 cars in Forza.
Oh yeah, and Forza, yeah.
And
I don't like how it's not till 2016. I think that's pretty dumb. Like I just don't understand that at all. And especially since they made a big deal out of it.
Yeah, it's weird for them to make a big deal out of it. I mean, it's a huge game. People love it, so it's definitely a surprise to see Fallout cars in it. But we'll see.
Like, if they announced a Fallout car pack and they were like, come in 2016, it's like, all right, but they announced one car. And it's just, guys, it's cool, but don't announce it this fucking early.
Yeah. I mean, it's quite nice. I do quite like these little collaborations. I think they're a nice thing for Xbox fans.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And obviously, it shows they've obviously got the sort of marketing deal with it, so that's why that's happening. But
all right, well, that's cool. People will be able to get a chance to enjoy that. So let's move on to just what you've been playing. Let's talk about those games. So I've been playing. Well, I bought the new Xbox One console, the Elite console, because I sold my PS4 and my Xbox One Day One Edition. And I was getting $250 each for a console, so that covered the cost of the Elite console. And then I got a free controller and a free game from GameStop, which was an awesome deal. So I was able to get my older brother a copy of Halo 5 and I have an extra controller sitting around, and I got a $25 gift card from GameStop because of the amount of power points or whatever the power rewards points that I had. So I was able to like kind of knock all that stuff out all in one like swing, which was really cool. Um, but the Elite console, like my Minecraft, like specifically because I play Minecraft so much, my world usually would lock up an Xbox for about 30 seconds before it would start loading the world because my file size for my save file is huge. And now it like only freezes for about 5 seconds because I play Minecraft so much it stays in the hybrid drive, in the fast part of the hybrid drive. So I'm
So did you get like a hard drive option, and it's like this is the hybrid stuff, and this is how does a hybrid drive?
no.
Is it all just a faster
So
drive?
what it is, Steve, is let's say you click on Fallout, and that's your game of choice, right? And you're always playing Fallout. The drive will see that you use Fallout, those files, more than any other file, and it will put it in the faster partition on the drive. And that way it'll load quickly. But let's say you haven't played Forced in a year, but you decide today you're going to play Forced. Well, it's going to load at the same speed as a regular hard drive does because it's not in the faster partition. So it actually takes the files that you usually use and puts it in the fast part, in the SSD part of the hybrid drive, so that you get this extremely fast connection. It's almost like an artificial fast, but it just does it by seeing what you use the most and uses those files in the fast part of the partition. But it like I said, if you use a game that you haven't played installed, like I have 150 games on my hard drive installed on the external. Let's say if I put one of those up there and I waited a year to play it, it's just going to be on a random part of the partition and it's not going to be in the fast section. It'll just load like if anything else was loading. So you figure, I guarantee you Microsoft probably prioritized some parts of the hybrid drive specifically for their OS just to make that run faster. So it would always use, but you would always be using the OS anyway. So I'm pretty sure those files are going to be always in the faster part of the drive and not the slow part. But it just prioritizes the files you use the most.
Oh.
Yeah.
To us, I thought it was like a sort of like a manual thing, but that's quite an interesting way of doing it.
Yeah. No, it's not something you manually do. Like even you can actually buy hybrid drives for your computer. They do exist. They sell quite a few, and that's all. It just looks like a regular hard drive. It's just the drive figures out what files you use the most and puts them in the faster part of the drive. It has it doesn't actually show up as a fake thing or like a separate drive. It's just you use Fallout a lot, it's going to put that into that part of the drive, and that way it loads up faster for you. So I play Minecraft a lot. Minecraft loads up faster for me because of it. But it's not like an astronomically. It's not like I bought an SSD drive and that's all I have in it and everything's really fast, because it's not. But it does give you a bonus on things you play regularly. But that's just how you have to view that system. So if anybody asks me, it's like, oh, everything must be extremely quick now, no matter what game you load. No, it's not. But Grand Theft Auto loads marginally faster with the hybrid drive in it than it does with the regular drive. But not that initial load. It has to actually move that game data over to the faster part of the drive. Which
how are you finding your Elite controller?
The Elite controller is fantastic. I've been using it for a while now.
Well, before we talk about the Elite controller, let's talk about how it's $150.
Yeah,
that's what everyone else does.
All right, so it's $150. It's expensive, but it's an awesome controller. It has detachable all those buttons, and it feels really good. I actually do like the 16 directional or whatever they're calling it, D-pad. I think it feels right. It feels kind of like the original Xbox D-pad, which feels good to me. Like it just feels really good and solid. I know some people don't like it. I've honestly haven't tried it in a fighting game yet. I haven't given it a shot. But like just as like something where I just move my finger down to like hit down on the D-pad, it feels more comfortable than the square. But I have tried the just straight solid D-pad, and that also feels extremely good. I just left this 16 directional pad on, and like I have no problem. Like I don't ask myself, oh, why do I have this on? I just keep it on. So
I personally think the new D-pads to become the standard one. That's how much I like it. I think it's that good. It really is.
I could see why people don't like
really
it though.
I can't. Like I can't. It's extremely good.
So is that how
like it's more like a joystick than it is a D-pad now.
What's that, Steve?
So how does, because if you can switch between the regular sort of 4-directional pad and the new sort of disky one.
Mm-hmm.
So is it actually, is the underlying connection different?
Nope, not at all.
So,
No.
so
okay,
how
can you
is
see my camera? You can
Yes.
see my camera. 1 second. I'll show you exactly. Hopefully it works. So it's still just a cross.
Oh, okay.
But it works more like when you actually use it on the controller, it works more like a joystick.
Okay,
By
here's a
going
better
up and
view for you,
down.
Steve. This is what's under the controller.
Oh,
You usually
I see.
don't see that. So
Yeah.
that's what you're actually hooking onto. So
And
you
do- but-
still just have the cross. It's just when this, oops, I dropped it. When this attaches, which it's all magnetic, it just locks in and you still have the same, like, clicking, you know.
And does it feel, and it feels much better to use that?
I think both of them feel fantastic. Like, even the metal one, it just feels really good. But I think this is more comfortable. Like, when I go to put my thumb down, I'm not, like, my fingers aren't landing on a cross no more. They're kind of landing in a crater. So, like, you kind of have a bowl that you're moving around. But because it's, like, marked and flat surfaces, you can feel exactly, where you're pressing down and get exactly what you
You
want.
also don't have to take your finger off of the D-pad at all. Like you could just leave your thumb on and you just push it in the directions you want.
Yeah, that's
You
true.
don't have to
But I think the big benefit is, like, with the cross, it's flat all the way across. With this, it's actually beveled up, so you can feel exactly where hitting right would be or hitting up. You're not kind of just pushing your thumb up to hit up. You actually feel the indentions of where up is, so you get a more precise click on your controller, no matter where your thumb's sitting on that D-pad.
I'm sorry, guys.
All right. Well. But yeah, the Elite controller is I like it a lot. It's very awesome. Is it $150 worth for everybody? No. I don't. I think I agree with most people. Like, you don't need it. I think the original, like, Xbox One controller actually feels really good. It's a solid controller. But how I look at it is because it's made with stainless steel on the inside, you'll never have to worry about, like, the controller wearing down or going bad. So it's the one controller you could use all generation and never think about it again. Like, it's going to be a great controller the whole time. Well, like, I've been through, like, I have Xbox One controllers where the audio just doesn't work off the bottom of it no more. Or it feels janky on the analog stick because it's just wore down over time, and it just doesn't feel right anymore. While this, because it uses a ceramic disc and a metal plate, it's never going to wear down. So, yes, you're paying for it up front, but I essentially think about it like, okay, how many controllers do I normally buy in a generation because they just wear down? Oh, about 3. That's $60 of controller. That's $180. Or I can buy this one controller for $150, and then I should theoretically never have to buy another controller this whole generation. I'm good to go.
And because obviously the big problem, the reason why I bought this new controller, the one with the headset jack in it personally, was just because the grips wore down because I used it so often. Whereas, like, on that one you can just buy new grips, can't you?
Yeah.
And they'll fit in.
They'll just snap in with magnets.
So even if you had to play, your Xbox controller so much that the grips had disappeared. It rather than the case of is it like $20 for an accessory pack, or
Yeah.
do they not sell them yet?
I don't think they sell them yet, but yeah, it's gonna be
when they do
cheap.
make them. That would be something that's much more. Rather than spending $60 or $100 or not $100, $60. For sort of multiple, as you said, you could just buy one and just be like, that's fine.
But even with your grips, think about it. If you could essentially, like your analog sticks, right? They go on 4 different ways. So I could take this. It'd be like rotating tires and turn it 90 degrees, and I could just keep turning it as I play the controller, and your grips last longer because your thumbs aren't going to be, my thumb on my left analog stick sits on the bottom left of the analog stick. But if I rotate it, 90 degrees, now it's not. Now it's on a different spot, and it doesn't, you don't wear down your grips.
Mm.
But these grips aren't supposed to ever wear down anyway, supposedly from the material they made them out of. But you could technically rotate your grips so that they last longer than they should, so that becomes a thing. But I don't know, like even my day one controllers, the grips still are pretty decent on them. I've never had my grips like wear down.
Yeah, mine they're not flat, but they're getting there.
Yeah.
All I would tell people is, do you come home and play your Xbox like 3-4 hours plus every day? Then this controller's probably for you. Like, really, it's that simple. Do you play the console a lot? Like to the point where you're wearing down controllers? Then just like someone on the PC, if they do the same thing with PC gaming, should go out and buy themselves a Razer mouse and a nice keyboard. You should get yourself a nice controller to play with. But if you're the guy that only comes home and plays COD for an hour a day, no, you don't need it. But if you're like, I'm going to play, a couple 100 hours of Fallout in the coming weeks, then yeah, this is probably the controller for you. It's all about it. It is a better controller. It's worth the price. It just depends on whether you use your Xbox enough to justify it, and that's completely up to you.
Yeah. First, I wasn't particularly tempted because of the cost, but now I'm starting to, because I would use it sufficiently to make it worthwhile. I'm starting to get tempted.
Yeah, like I said, it's more about you would never have to buy another controller. Not, oh, this is going to be the one out of the 6 I buy this generation because they wear down or something. And I don't wear, like, it makes me sound bad saying I wear down controllers, but like N64, I own multiple controllers. Some of them are third party, growing up, we wore through them. Like, you go through controllers through a generation. And if I could have started this generation with this controller, I would have, because I know I'll go through multiple controllers. And it's nice just to know you have a controller that's not going to wear down over the course of these years. And I'll be honest, I bought the PC adapter. And I'm going to be using this controller to play Street Fighter V on my PC. And I'm going to use an Elite Xbox controller because the D-pad feels fucking amazing. Like everything about this controller is what you want out of a controller. I think this is going to replace pretty much anything I do on PC. Like, I'm going to use this controller for it. And having the PC adapter, why the fuck would I need a PlayStation when I have a PC and an Xbox? Like, I just don't need it. Like, honestly, Steve, I was playing, since we're kind of doing what you've been playing, I was playing Rocket while I didn't have my Xbox because I sold it. Those couple days, I was playing Rocket League on PC with an Elite controller. And all the button prompts were there for the Xbox version, so it's not like I was using PlayStation button prompts. Because guess what? PC, the Xbox controller is the standard. And it felt good. It felt fantastic, honestly. It worked very well. And my PC played the game extremely well. So, like, all these games that would come to Sony's console but not Xbox, you can pretty much get every single one of them on PC, and they have Xbox controller support. So I'll be able to use my Elite controller on my TV and, play the games that I want to play. And the Steam OS also natively supports Xbox controllers, so it works there. You get all the custom button mapping, you get all that stuff still there, even on the PC version. So, it's nothing but win-win for me, you know. Now, yes, I did have to pay $25 for the PC adapter, the wireless adapter, but I could have hardwired it, and I would have still been okay. But I think the PC adapter is worth it. I really do.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've coughed up the money for it yet, but it's definitely worth it.
I had it pre-ordered, and then I cancelled it.
Mm-hmm.
Just because I've got my PS4 USB micro, whatever it's called, plugged into my PC at the moment, so I've just been using that. I think I probably will get it. So.
I think it's worth it. I really do. I think you'll like it because you do play PC games, so you'll like using your Elite controller on it, and just being able to have having your headset running through your Xbox controller and it's playing all your PC audio, so you could theoretically, you don't have to have any wires attached, not even for game audio or chat audio. It's just it all works through the controller, and you can just sit there and chat with your friends. It's easy as that. It's awesome. I really do. I think.
And while we're on that topic, we should say this the wireless adapter can do 8 controllers at one time on your PC, or it can do 2 controllers with full stereo audio through headsets.
Which we weren't able to figure that out right off the bat.
You
have to have a program but you have to. Yeah, it supports it, but you got to do weird things to get it to work. I don't know. Maybe it's a game thing. We weren't able to get we were trying to watch YouTube at the same time, with both Elite controllers hooked up to my PC, and I would have the mic, but he would have audio, but with no mic. It was just really weird, but I guarantee it's just a game related thing. So, but yeah, it supports 8 controllers on PC, so I could see Street Fighter V tournaments being totally PC based if they don't get the input, because for whatever reason PlayStation has had a bad problem with controller input lag in fighting games, and it's been kind of an issue. So I could see Street Fighter really being pushed for PC for tournaments, just to make sure input lag's down to nothing. Which I'm not trying to bash the PS4, but they need to figure out that. But I don't know if they will be able, because it's a Bluetooth thing, and that's going to be an issue for that console. But yeah, I like the controller. I like the wireless adapter's awesome. I know we're getting the chat pad soon. I think the 15th is when it's supposed to drop.
That one I do have ordered and paid for. I completely forgot about that. Actually, I'm quite looking forward to that.
I'm hoping the chat pad works on PC, and that way, if I am playing a PC game and I'm using the controller, I could use the chat pad to talk, through the messenger on the PC game. I think that'd be really cool, and a great way for Microsoft to leverage itself on the PC ecosystem. Because I look at the Steam controller and it just doesn't look appealing to me, while I still want to use my Elite controller.
Yeah, I'll be honest, I don't look at the Steam controller as anything other than something that looks like a bit of a monstrosity. Maybe that's harsh because I haven't used one, but I look at it and I just think, it's probably not aimed at me, to be perfectly honest, but it doesn't look like something that will be, enjoyable to use for me.
Well, most people that I've seen review it, they're not. It's definitely not becoming their controller of choice. It's got a use, but its use is not the same as a regular controller's use would be. It's just something different. Honestly, I'm surprised to see the only reason this controller is even getting the light of day is because Valve is making it. Because it's funny to see the PC community, which is always up everyone's ass about how keyboard and mouse is the only way to play games. But the Steam controller, oh my god, this thing's the greatest thing ever created, It's... What are you going to do?
Alright, well, Steve, what have you been playing?
I mentioned Call of Duty earlier, so I won't go on about that again. So I finished that, and I've been playing Divinity Original Sin Enhanced Edition for for review. I've got a review copy, and it is a damn long game. I think it's it's like an old school sort of top down RPG, and it was kickstarted. And it was hugely successful, and it was everyone said it was a great game. So they made this enhanced edition for Xbox One and PS4. As I said, it's very old school. I suppose stuff like The Witcher, sort of fantasy RPG, gives you a bit more sort of direction, whereas this kind of leaves you to kind of obviously they'll tell you what to do and they'll give you markers and stuff, but it is very old school in that sense. I'm really enjoying it, but it is a bit hard work at times. Like the UI is not very good at all. Like there's a lot more micromanaging, and it's not particularly. I find the menu's not particularly intuitive, and it could be a bit awkward. But there's tons of quests. I do think as far as sort of top down isometric RPGs go, I do think it looks really nice. Like I love how sharp it looks. And there's sort of lots of text to read, but also they've added voice overs for this one and stuff. So I'm playing it. It's really good. I'm gonna finish it. I need to finish it this week to get my review going. So I've been playing it over a week, and I'm still only just over halfway into the story. But it's good. I just need to keep going with it. And to rest, I've knocked the difficulty down because I was getting a bit wrecked. But it's, as I said, it's quite good. I think it's the sort of thing where perhaps you need to play it. Then once you sort of know what to do, then I don't know if it's got New Game Plus, but then you can sort of go again and, sort of up the challenge and stuff, unless, perhaps you're just better at these things than I am, but, it's really good. So I'm quite pleased. RPGs can be difficult to get into. Like I remember Dragon Age Inquisition, like the first 10 hours, I was just like, no, I can't do this. And then once you get into it and you get used to all the different systems and you start getting better loot and stuff, then obviously you get into it more. And then I was sort of similar-ish to The Witcher and even Fallout 3, which I played for the first time in September. Once you have to get past a certain stage, and then once you do, I think you sort of get into it and you sort of carry on going. So that's mainly what I've been playing this week. I've been playing a bit of Halo for the achievements. Played a few PC games. I just bought the new Football Manager, so I've just started that up today. But I don't worry. There's nothing to say because I've barely touched it. Played a bit of Game Dev Tycoon, that sort of thing. But it's many Divinity, and that now that I've finished Call of Duty and Tomb Raider is now till Friday, I'll be ploughing on with Divinity all week to try and finish it. That's my plan.
Good going, man. You've been playing a lot.
Yeah.
Ton.
All right. Well, Jason, what have you been playing?
I've been playing Tales of Two Wastelands. Now everyone's going, what the fuck is Tales of Two Wastelands? Well, have you ever wanted to play Fallout 3 and Fallout New Vegas as the same character back and forth, being able to travel between both wastelands? Well, you can, and that's what I'm playing, and it's fucking awesome. I'm currently running a shit ton of mods, but the basic premise is that you start off with this mod. You got to create a new save, but you start off and you go through the Fallout 3 intro, but it's a Fallout New Vegas mod, so you're starting up Fallout New Vegas and you're playing Fallout 3, and eventually you have to fight your way to the DC Wasteland to get to the train station. And even then, it takes another hour of fighting through user-created levels just to get to the actual train station. And then you got to pay 500 caps to travel to New Vegas. And then you do the New Vegas intro. And in order to take the train back to Fallout 3, you have to fight your way back to Vegas. So it's not a simple bullshit like, oh, I could just travel back between the wastelands. It feels very... it does a very good job of making it feel like it's actually part of the game rather than just thrown in. So yeah, I've been having a ton of fun doing that, playing Fallout New Vegas again, playing Fallout 3, just going around collecting and exploring. So definitely ready for some Fallout 4. That's what I'm doing.
All right. Well, I think we're going to actually call it a show, guys. It's 2 hours and 10 minutes. That's our short show.
Short show.
That's our short show. We had so many.
You sure you don't want to get in an argument?
We spent so much
Steve.
time. Like I hate. Not saying we love letters, but we had a lot of letters this week, so it took up a good chunk of time. And I'd like to thank
Write us
everybody
more
for
letters.
Thank you so much for writing us at letters@xboxuncut.com. We will have our show this week on our normal time on Thursdays at 8 p.m. Eastern. We will still record then. It's just this week we had to, it was really weird with schedules and everything to get everybody together. Steve, thank you so much for coming on the show this week. You're awesome.
Thanks for having me, guys. It's always good to be here.
Yeah.
Thank you, Steve.
I know it's such a weird time for you. I know you had, you got things going on other than, but to come on Sunday and randomly do it with us, I appreciate it. But we will catch everybody next week. Please write us at letters@xboxuncut.com. Thank you so much for One Saint for that awesome intro. But here's our outro. Peace out, everybody.